When you think of a construction site, you probably think of this. Big trucks, lots of noise, traffic jams, road diversions, dust, large cranes. In short, a few weeks, months or sometimes even years of nuisance and frustration for anyone who lives, works or travels through the area. And usually this situation is preceded by a lot of noisy and dusty demolition activities. Building on site has its downsides for the construction contractors and building owners too, as it means that all the building components are exposed to the elements, potentially being damaged by the rain, wind, snow and sun. However, construction sites don't need to be that way. Prefab construction enables us to construct buildings without the nuisance associated with traditional construction sites. In prefab construction, building parts are manufactured in a very clean and efficient manner in a condition-controlled factory hall. They can be prefabricated as either a collection of 2D elements, such as walls, facades and floors, that are constructed in the factory hall and quickly assembled on site. Or we can even create 3D modules which already include all finishes, electrical fittings, sanitary units and, in some cases, fully fitted kitchens. And this doesn't mean prefab housing has to look boring from the inside or outside. In fact, any finish is possible. As timber is 5 times lighter than concrete and far easier to work with, it's a perfect material for prefab construction. This is why many new housing prefabrication factories are being built with a concept specifically based on timber. Let's take a closer look at how this is done. Today we're on a modular housing factory of Lister Buildings in the south of the Netherlands. Here they produce multi-story buildings out of 3D modules made from mass timber. Hello Vivian.
Hey Pablo, good to see you and welcome at Lister Buildings.
Well, thanks for having us. I understood you're going to give us a tour through the factory?
Yes, of course. Yes, here we produce the modules made of mass timber to produce the multi-story apartment buildings. We have our own design team and head of design is Robert. And he can tell you a lot more about the whole process.
Hey Robert.
Hi Pablo.
Hey, this looks really intriguing. What are you doing here?
Currently I'm working on one of our 3D computer modules for one of our projects. So we integrate all the information needed for the production process into our 3D computer models. But first of all we start with the sketches. So we developed different kinds of floor plans for different groups of people, from students to young couples or small families to elderly people. Mainly people who want to live in the city, but pretty quickly in the design process we start with modeling together with our designers and engineers and production partners within the computer.
Right.
And we do this in order to have a full span of control of the production process. As you can see here, we developed a fully integrated 3D model. This is the wooden post beam structure of glulam. All our modules are made from dry mounted connections in order to be able to take everything apart at the end of the lifespan of a building. The dismountability. Yeah. This is the Koffiefabriek in Amsterdam. It's a multi-story timber building. We can build up to 10 stories high. And here this is the complete wooden structure of the Koffiefabriek.
So these consist of all these kind of 3D modules?
Yes, it are 150 modules in total. And you can see here we have all the posts and the beams are made out of glulam and the floors are made out of CLT.
And in total how many homes will be in the Koffiefabriek?
70 in total.
Wow, and why did you choose specifically to build in the 3D system?
Well, we built in a 3D modular system in order to have a full span of control, super good quality within our factory here in Weert, and to reduce all the assembly time outside on the building site. And in that way we are able to build quicker, but also have less nuisance for the surrounding area.
Wow, I like it a lot. So Vivian, this is where the magic happens. It's huge. How big is this hall?
This hall is 18,000 square meters. And in the end we could produce more than 1,000 modules here per year. And what you see right here are the different working stations. In each station a specific team works on an element of the module.
So like what kind of elements? Where do you start with?
The flooring, and of course the post and the beams afterwards, the ceiling, the wet parts, the wet areas of the module, the kitchen, the bathroom, the toilet. And then every workstation does something specific. And at the end of the day, our colleague from the storage room prepares all the materials for the next day. So the teams can start the other day early in the morning, prepared with all the materials they need.
Right, and at the end you have a finalized module that goes on the back of the truck.
Yes, exactly.
To the building site.
Yes,
Great.
yes, and then it goes to the building site, and then it's really amazing what happens there. You have a huge crane, picks up the module, and within less than 10 minutes, the module is in its final position. That's
Great.
amazing to see.
We start here at the first step in the factory.
Yes.
What happens here?
This is the place where all the materials come in, and they are sorted out here. And what you see here are the wooden elements of the module, which are designed and engineered by our partner CLTS from Belgium. They are experienced construction engineers of Glulam and CLT. We also work together with Stora Enso, our supplier, and the design BIM model from CLTS goes directly to Stora Enso, and in their factory these elements are prepared.
So what we saw in the BIM model that Robert showed us, all these elements and the sleeves, they are put there, sent over to the factory, and it comes plug and play like this.
Exactly, and we only assemble it here. So.
And do you know where all this timber comes from?
Well, Stora Enso has their own forests in Scandinavia, but also in Norway.
And that's all with a sustainable certification hallmark?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, Vivian, so this is what a module can do like. We saw the mass timber linear elements coming in, and here they're assembled in the 3D module?
Absolutely. So we have the floor, we have the posts. The beams are not here yet, but they will come afterwards in the next working station.
The Glulam posts are really impressive, and you keep them inside in the final building. Is that a deliberate choice?
Yes, because it adds to the aesthetic quality of the apartment. And we also know by now that it's good for people's health if they have the feeling that they live in a building with natural materials. And it's also in line with biophilic design principles. So it's really important for us.
So circularity is a very important theme nowadays in the construction industry. This 3D modular system of Lister, how does that score in terms of circularity?
Well, circularity is one of the great benefits of our system. And for example, we use dry connections and plug and play elements. And my colleague Rick can tell you all about it. He's our circularity manager. So Rick, hi.
Hi. Good to see you here. So you're the expert. Can you explain us a little bit more, for example, how the circularity works on the Lister system?
Yeah, we actually make a circularity passport for every building that we make, and we score our building on 6 different topics, and so we can have a nice overview of the performances of our circularity. Dismountability and the separability are very important of the products or the components in the module, but also the material health, but also the origin, where does the products come from. So Vivian probably already told you that all our timber is 100% sustainable sourced, right? But we also want to know about all the other different products.
Typically in these multi-story apartment buildings, you need to add mass to meet acoustic requirements. So usually they pour on a concrete floor. Yeah. So how did you manage that in the Lister system?
Yeah, that's why we use these kind of bricks. They are dismountable, that we don't pour any liquid concrete. So this makes the system way more circular. And these bricks can be taken out after the whole module is disassembled.
Right, and so then you have the CLT floor that can also be reused
Yeah,
because they're not
exactly.
connected in a wet way.
Exactly. That's another example of the circularity of our module, actually.
But you mentioned there's also circularity included in this whole bathroom module.
Yeah, you can take the whole bathroom, you can take it out of the module. So basically, if you want to take it out, that's not a problem, and you can reuse the whole module in a whole different way.
And the rest of the bearing structure remains intact.
100%.
Very nice.
So this is our demo house, which is 3 stories high, but we can build up to 10 stories high with this structure.
And so the 8 modules that you used for this building, how long did it take to install them?
In a couple of days, we can put up the modules. It
Only
goes
a
really
couple of
fast.
days?
Yes, really fast.
Well, I'm curious. Let's take a look inside, shall we?
Hey, Robert.
Hello, how are you?
Nice to see you in the demo house.
So here we see the 3D module in action.
Here you see the 3D module in action with its primary structure. As I explained to you earlier, our modules are created out of post beams from glulam. And as you can see here is the ceiling made from a CLT slab.
Right, and the installations are just integrated and screwed on top.
They are screwed on top, but they're all integrated already in the module before we go on site, outside of the factory.
So, wow, Robert, what do we see here?
Well, here in our apartment you see the biggest advantage of our post beam structure. So we're able to create open floor plans over multiple modules. And in that sense we are able to create bigger or smaller rooms according to the client's wishes.
And this is one module?
This is one module and this is the second module. And together they form a big living room, which is bigger than the standard module size.
Cool. And so this is really massive glulam post beam system.
Completely fire safe.
And on top of this, there's a CLT panel that you don't see. It's encapsulated.
It's hidden behind the ceiling. We also integrated the installations in the ceiling. So in that sense, we create a full high quality apartment.
So, and how long is this fireproof? Up to 10 stories high?
120 minutes.
120 minutes.
Yes.
Great.
According to all Dutch regulations.
Nice. And I also really love the quality of it, what it does to the atmosphere in the room. So Rick, we've learned a lot today. If you would give a wrap up, why should we build in such a manner?
Yeah, so we can build here in controlled circumstances, of course. We don't produce that much waste. It's a lot safer actually for our workers, and of course it's a very nice environment to be in. And the building process is a lot quicker as well, so we don't have that much time spent on the actual construction site.
Right, I saw it. The modules are finished here. They are put on the back of a truck and then they come at the building site and then it's plug and play. I like it a lot. Well, I've learned a lot. We have seen that the modular prefab timber home does not have to be bland at all. It can actually be a very pleasant and appealing home when the timber is incorporated sensitively into the interior design. Moreover, the prefabrication of the timber elements offers several clear benefits. I am convinced that bio-based modular construction is one of the best ways to tackle the housing shortage while still meeting climate and circularity goals.